Hello everyone and welcome to this short video where today I'm going to show you 10 build tricks and hacks that I regularly use in a lot of my modern and town style builds. So jumping straight in, the first thing on the list in my books is our lawns. Now it's super easy to add in any kind of grass lawn with just the vanilla grass blocks like this, but in my mind and my opinion I think it looks a little bit bland. So why not actually mix it up a little bit and alternate between some green concrete like this and then switch it up with the moss block. So then what we start to get is a bit more of that modern, well-trimmed, striped lawn effect. And the added bonus of this is that because it's not grass, it does not change color depending on what biome you happen to be in. As for those of you who don't know, the grass blocks, they will change color depending on where you are. So if you're in the savannah, they will go quite a yellow tinged color, which I think ruins that sort of lawn effect anyway. So by using something like the moss and the green concrete, then it sort of solves all of that in one and really helps sort of add to the modern feel. For a final little detail then to add into your lawns, what you can also do is you can hide away some sort of lighting block into the lawn. So if you add whatever you have to hand, whether that be frog lights, sea lanterns, shroom lights, stone lamps, or even just torches, then you can just hide them away from view by placing a moss carpet on top. It's a super simple thing to do. It just means the light can still travel through, and you're stopping all the mobs from spawning, but you're not kind of spoiling the area of any kind of torch spam. Build trick number 2 for the day, and that is shrubs. It's super easy to do, and you can do so just by adding in some fence blocks like this and then adding in some leaf blocks. Now I tend to quite like using the spruce fences like this, as the stem color then works so much better, and then I also quite like using the azalea blocks, as you've got the mixture then of the flowering and non-flowering azalea leaves, so you add in a bit of an extra bit of pop of color and detail into it. And also the added bonus is that the azalea leaves don't change color based on what biome you are, just like how we were using the moss here in the lawn. So I tend to like mixing up like this, and you may as well do it, as it will really help fill out your garden areas. So for the third build trick that I'm going to show you today, and this is very specific to more of the modern style builds, but if you've got a modern townhouse like the one that I've got here, then something you could add is to add in some aircon units. Now, in my mind, the iron blocks here, they already look quite a lot like that anyway, just by their texture. So if we add in some of these like this, and then we add in some iron bars, now you can either add in just a couple like this, or you can take it all the way across like that. And if we add in some iron trapdoors on top and then a redstone torch on the side, then I think that does the trick really well and really looks like an aircon unit. So adding in a couple like that, and I think it'll really help make your build look a bit more realistic. And then in the exact sort of same trail of thoughts for build trick number 4, and that is to add in either an air vent slash aircon unit thing on top of your roof. Now, normally you end up in this empty zone here, which I think just looks really bland by itself, and we could do so much better. So if you want to really jazz it up a little bit, then what we can do is start by adding in a 4-block wide unit on the top. And to really make it a little bit more realistic, if we remove one of these top blocks like this, then you can hide in a campfire, and you'll see why in a second, as if you cover this over, then you'll then have the wisp of vapor there coming in out of the top, so add in a bit more energy and realism into the build. And if we add in some rails like this on top, then it looks very much like that air vent, that sort of fan style effect. And then again, if you really want to, you can add in some iron bars around the side like that, and I think that looks really cool. So adding just a couple of these can go a long way into adding in the much needed realism and obviously fill in any kind of empty spaces that you might have. Build trick number 5 is equally simple, and that is a satellite dish array here on top. As chances are, if you're building a modern build like this, then maybe you're planning on building a living room with a flat screen TV that's connected on up to the satellite. So if we add one on top, then it helps connect things up a little bit, and again, add in more realism. So if we just make use of the iron bars like this, and if we take this up a level, at least a couple blocks up like this, so you can either go 1 block up or 2 blocks up depending on your preference. And then if we add in some blocks like this on the side, then you start to add in more of that dish effect. And then we can add in a redstone torch on top. It's super basic, but it's just these little details like this that will go a long way to bring your builds to life. And it's just, I think it's worth doing in my mind. And again, it fills in that empty space on the roof. So if you're flying in from afar, or if you're wandering in from the streets down below, then you immediately spot it. And I think it goes a long way. For build tricks number 6 and 7, we'll focus on the streets. So now if you've got anything like this, where you've got a townhouse and you decided to build up a road, and then perhaps you build it up a pavement like this, where you've raised it up by a single slab level, then what would be perfect is a bench for any passers-by to stop at. So it's really easy to do, and you can just do this by embedding a stair block like this into the ground. Leave a couple of blocks gap like this, and then on top of it, if you place in a slab on top and then fill in the gaps like this with the trapdoors, then you have a perfect little bench. And also, if you contrast the colors here with whatever you use for your pavement, so if you're using the andesite and stone like I am here, then contrasting with something like granite, I think just works really nicely. It adds a pop of color and detail, and just, yeah, it mixes things up a little bit and works that little bit nicer. But straight along for this to accompany it is build trick number 7, and that is a small bin. So if we add in a cauldron block like this and an oak trapdoor on top, it is super basic and simple, but it just works and is perfect then for any passers-by that's stopping off. Perhaps they got some litter, well, now they can just drop it off in the bin that you can add here. For the final build tricks of today's video, I need to take you over to a creative version of my survival world over on the Channel 64 SMP server, where I've been building a lot more in the modern industrial style. And one of the things I added was these solar panel units like this on top of my factory build, and actually really easy to make. So all you need is some wall blocks. Now in my case, I've been using these stone bricks like this as quite a neutral color, and they went in quite nicely with my roof here, but you could use any wall block that you wanted. And then on top of them, you just need to place in some daylight detectors like so. And then if you just hit them once, they go into night mode. And I think once they're in that night mode, they look a lot more realistic and like actual solar panels. And if you want to add to them effect, you can add in this sort of sloping style of them where we can have in a row, and then each row back we go up by 1. And I think that can work really well on certainly more of the industrial style builds. But I think this could be adapted for any kind of modern build you might have, be it a modern house or tower or whatever else you have in mind on your worlds. But with that, for the night trick, I need to take you over to this aerial mast here. Now, this one's a little bit of a bigger one, so I'm not going to build it from scratch, but it is really straightforward still to make, and it's certainly really effective, I think, in my mind. But anyway, all you need is some polished deep slate blocks like this. And then if you have a 3x3 platform, then you can start to add in some, like a center column going up to the top here. And I've chosen to use the red terracotta. It's a little bit more subtle and less in your face than red concrete. And then also on top, then I've added in these iron blocks and then made use of the iron bars. Iron bars are just perfect for any kind of antenna or satellite dish, as they're so moldable to anything that you want to build. You can make them span out as little or as much as you like. But I've chosen to sort of crisscross in this sort of fashion like this, and then going up a couple of blocks on top. And then you can also add in redstone torches and end rods for some lighting, and add in a little bit more energy into the antenna. And then around your center column, then you can add in some of the stone brick walls here to support it. Add in like a terminating point here on top with some polished deep slate wall blocks, or again, any kind of wall block that you want of choice. But just something I think in my mind that should match with the actual base there, so it feels more connected. And then of course you can add in more of the iron bars around there as well to keep adding into that feel. But anyway, this is more themed as sort of a modern industrial antenna here, more like a mobile mast, so probably not suitable for general house builds, but maybe more towards some sort of industrial modern build, or maybe more of like a tower or skyscraper that you might have on your world. But if you did want something a little bit smaller, then you could also build something like I did here over at my site office cabin. I did something similar where I added in a smaller base like this, another 3x3 base, and then added in some of the wall blocks and then iron bars on top, and then again the end rods and the redstone torches like that. So it still has the same sort of effect, but obviously at a much smaller scale. So that'd probably be more suitable for general modern builds. Let's move on to the final build trick of the day, and that is these electrical overheads. Now they're really easy to make, but I think they are perfect for any kind of town or cities that you might be building on your worlds. You really only need a few blocks, and for this you need some cyan terracotta to act as the foundation block here, and then you want to build up a number of the polished deep slate blocks, or you could use another wall block of choice, but I think in this sort of fashion I think they work the best. And then on top of them you just want to add in some more of the cyan terracotta to connect up either side of the wall block on the top. And then what I like to do is I like to offset them by 1. So rather than just have them directly horizontally like this, then I offset them by 1 just to add a bit more depth. And I think to make them look a little bit more realistic. And then on top of them, we can add more of the iron bars, as again, iron bars just works perfectly in any kind of builds like this. And then of course a end rod. I can't build anything modern without adding in end rods, as it just adds in that nice bit of ambient lighting. But anyway, beneath the 2 end blocks, what you'll want to add in is another wall block. Now I've opted to use the polished black stone as it's a little bit darker, and again contrasts a bit more from the sort of center pillar there that we've got in place. And then beneath it, if we added something like a spruce gate that's set to the open position, and I think it looks perfect to attach electrical cables to. And then finally, what perfect block to use? The chain itself. The chain looks just like an electrical cable in my mind, so we can use that to connect up our different electric overhead masts. So if you see here, we can just join them up there with any number of them that you want to build. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more, then hit that like button and subscribe for more. But until next time, I will see you later. Bye bye.